Your mind is constantly working, running through tasks, decisions, worries, and responsibilities, and most of the time you feel like you're just not doing enough. You blame yourself for being lazy, but the truth is your brain is overloaded, and that's what's holding you back. Feeling stuck, tired, and unmotivated is not a personal failure. It's a signal that your mind needs space, rest, and focus. When you understand this, everything changes. You can learn to recognize when your brain is overwhelmed, clear the mental clutter that drains your energy, and rebuild your mental space so you can take action without guilt. Imagine going through your day feeling clear, motivated, and capable, making decisions with calm instead of stress. This video will guide you through practical steps to reclaim control over your mind, restore your energy, and move forward with confidence. You're not lazy, you're simply asking your mind to do too much at once, and it's time to fix that. Chapter 1. Recognize when your brain is begging for rest, not more effort. There comes a point in every person's life when the problem isn't laziness, it's exhaustion that has gone unnoticed for too long. You try to push yourself harder, you tell yourself to get it together, and yet no matter how much you try, you feel stuck. The truth is your brain isn't refusing to work, it's begging for rest. It's trying to recover from being pushed beyond what it was designed to handle, without ever being given time to breathe. And when the mind is overloaded, even simple tasks feel like heavy weights. You wake up tired, you try to start the day, but even basic things, replying to messages, doing your work, cleaning your space, feel like climbing a hill. You think you've lost motivation, but what you've really lost is clarity. When your mind is full of unfinished thoughts, constant pressure, and self-blame, it cannot function clearly. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign that your system is overwhelmed. You can't think deeply when your brain is already drowning in noise. So many people today confuse rest with laziness. They believe that if they're not constantly doing something, they're wasting time. But that's not productivity, that's self-destruction. The brain needs quiet time to process emotions, to recover from stress, to organize information. Without that, you start living in a loop of burnout where you push, crash, rest for a moment, and then repeat the same cycle all over again. That's not discipline, that's survival mode. To win back control of your mind, you first have to listen to what it's been trying to tell you. The signs are there, you're easily irritated, your focus fades fast, and even small challenges feel like major battles. You scroll through your phone without purpose, you forget things you used to remember easily, and you feel guilty for not being as productive as you used to be. This guilt makes you push even harder, but the harder you push, the more tired you become. What you're experiencing is not a lack of ambition, it's mental overload. The mind is like a muscle, it grows when used and recovers when rested. If you lift weights without giving your muscles time to repair, you get injured. The same rule applies to your brain. If you never give it time to recharge, it loses its strength. And then you start questioning yourself. You say things like, "Why can't I stay focused anymore? Why do I keep losing interest?" The reason is simple. Your brain is working overtime just to keep you functioning. It's not refusing to work. It's fighting to protect you from burnout. You have to start seeing rest as part of the process, not the opposite of progress. The most productive people in the world understand the value of recovery. They know that energy, not time, is the real currency of success. You can have all the time in the world, but if your energy is low, that time becomes useless. When you take breaks, when you step back, you allow your mind to organize your thoughts, to connect ideas, to rebuild focus. Rest isn't doing nothing, it's allowing your mind to prepare for what's next. Ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed yourself to do nothing, without guilt? When was the last time you took a walk, just to clear your head, instead of filling it with more information? The world moves fast, and everywhere you look, someone is telling you to grind harder, to work longer, to never stop. But you can't win by running yourself into the ground. Success is not about speed, it's about direction. And when your brain is overloaded, you lose that direction. Rest doesn't mean giving up, it means getting ready. It means knowing when to pause so you can keep going with strength. You can't build a meaningful life if you're always tired. You can't be creative if you never slow down enough to think. You can't grow emotionally if you never give yourself space to reflect. You must protect your energy as much as your time, because your energy determines the quality of your thoughts, and your thoughts shape the quality of your life. Some people think taking a day off, spending quiet time alone, or saying no to extra work is being lazy. But that's not laziness, that's emotional maturity. It means you understand that you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't help others when you're mentally drained. You can't love what you do when your mind feels like it's carrying 100 tabs open at once. Your mind needs space to breathe, and when you give it that space, you start thinking clearly again. You start feeling motivated again. You start feeling like yourself again. If you keep ignoring your brain's signals, it will find ways to force you to stop, through stress, burnout, or emotional breakdowns. That's how the body protects itself. You may think you can keep pushing forever, but eventually, the mind will say, enough. The goal is not to reach that point. The goal is to recognize the signs early. When you start feeling mentally foggy, when everything irritates you, when you can't focus no matter how hard you try, that's not a sign to push harder, that's a sign to slow down. You can train your mind to notice overload before it takes over you. Start by paying attention to your thoughts. When you catch yourself saying, "I can't think straight," pause. Step back. Do something simple. Drink water. Go outside. Close your eyes for a few minutes. Give your brain a chance to reset. You'll be surprised how much clarity returns when you stop forcing your mind to keep going. One of the most powerful things you can do for yourself is to separate effort from exhaustion. Working hard is good, but working non-stop without rest is not strength. It's fear. Fear of falling behind. Fear of being judged. Fear of not being enough. But you don't become successful by being constantly busy. You become successful by being consistently focused. And focus only comes when your mind is clear, calm and rested. You owe it to yourself to build habits that protect your mental energy. Don't wait for burnout to teach you this lesson. Create a daily routine that includes rest. Take moments during your day to slow down, breathe deeply, and check in with yourself. You don't have to earn rest by burning out first. You deserve it, simply because you're human. Your value doesn't depend on how much you do. It depends on how well you can show up for what truly matters. When you start listening to your mind, you'll notice something powerful. The fog begins to lift. You'll realize that many of your problems weren't because you weren't trying hard enough, but because you were trying too hard without direction. You were carrying too much at once. You were ignoring the quiet voice in your head, asking for space. Once you start resting intentionally, your focus sharpens, your creativity grows, and your confidence returns. Rest is not about quitting, it's about coming back stronger. You need quiet moments to reflect, to think, to plan. You need time to remember what truly matters, so you don't waste your energy on things that don't. When you honor your limits, you're not being weak, you're being wise. The strongest people in the world are not the ones who never rest. They're the ones who know when to rest and how to return with clarity. You are not lazy. You are mentally overloaded. And once you understand that, you can begin to heal. You can start setting boundaries that protect your mind from constant noise. You can choose peace over pressure. You can choose clarity over chaos. The moment you stop seeing rest as the enemy is the moment you start rebuilding your strength. So take this as your reminder.
Your brain doesn't need more pressure. It needs permission to recover. It needs you to listen before it shuts down. Because the truth is, your best ideas, your best work and your best self all come from a mind that's calm, rested, and clear. You don't have to earn your worth through exhaustion. You just have to give yourself the space to breathe again. When you finally start giving your brain the rest it's been asking for, you'll notice the difference. You'll wake up with more focus. You'll handle problems with more patience. You'll feel lighter inside. Because you're no longer fighting against yourself, you're working with yourself. That's not laziness. That's balance. That's what real growth looks like.
Chapter 2. Accept that constant noise in your head is what's slowing you down. There's a reason why even the smartest, most talented, and most capable people sometimes feel stuck, and it's not because they're lazy, distracted, or unmotivated. It's because their minds are filled with noise, not the kind of noise you hear outside, but the kind that never stops inside your head. It's the constant flood of thoughts, worries, comparisons, and reminders that never let you slow down. It's that voice that says, you should be doing more, or you're falling behind, or you're not enough yet. It's that never-ending mental conversation that keeps replaying everything you haven't done, everything you regret, and everything that might go wrong. And that, right there, is what's slowing you down more than anything else. You may think you're working hard, but if your mind is full of noise, you're not moving, you're just spinning. You wake up already tired, not because your body didn't rest, but because your brain never stopped running. You check your phone before you even open your eyes fully, already absorbing everyone else's life, everyone else's achievements, and everyone else's opinions. Before you even start your day, your mind is already full of pressure, full of comparison, full of invisible weight. Then you wonder why you can't focus. It's not because you're lazy, it's because your mental space is already taken. In today's world, mental silence has become rare. We've trained ourselves to fill every gap with something: music, podcasts, videos, social media, conversations, endless thoughts. We've forgotten how to be quiet. But the truth is, growth happens in silence. Clarity happens in silence. Focus happens in silence. You can't think clearly when your mind is constantly crowded with noise. That noise isn't harmless. It drains your energy, weakens your focus, and keeps you from hearing your own thoughts. When you have too much mental noise, even small tasks feel huge. You open your laptop to start something important, and suddenly your brain jumps between 10 different things. I need to reply to that message. I forgot to pay that bill. What if I mess this up? Why am I not further ahead? This kind of thinking scatters your attention into tiny fragments. You can't do deep work in a shallow state of mind. You can't move forward if your thoughts are constantly pulling you in 100 directions at once. That's why some people feel like they're always busy, but never productive. They're constantly thinking, but not thinking clearly. They're overthinking, not reflecting. They're reacting, not deciding. Their mental energy is leaking through noise they never learn to quiet. It's like trying to drive with the handbrake on. You're pressing the gas, but you're not really going anywhere. If you want to move forward in life, you have to learn to make peace with silence. You have to stop fearing it. Most people avoid quiet because it forces them to face themselves. It brings up thoughts they've been avoiding: pain, self-doubt, regret, or confusion. But that's exactly where growth begins. When you face the noise instead of running from it, you start to understand what's actually holding you back. You start to see that not all thoughts deserve your attention. The brain is powerful, but it's not infinite. It can only handle so much information before it starts to slow down. When you fill it with noise, you leave no room for clarity. You leave no space for creativity, for focus, or for peace. Imagine your brain as a desk. If that desk is filled with papers, coffee cups, and random clutter, how can you work efficiently? You can't. You have to clean it before you can think clearly. Your mind works the same way. You have to clear the noise before you can focus on what truly matters. Start by becoming aware of what's making the noise. Sometimes it's social media, constantly comparing yourself to others. Sometimes it's fear, worrying about things that haven't even happened yet. Sometimes it's guilt, replaying mistakes from the past that you can't change. Sometimes it's overcommitment, saying yes to too many things until your mind has no space left for yourself. Whatever it is, awareness is the first step. You can't fix what you don't notice. Then you must take responsibility for your mental space. That means setting boundaries with your phone, with people, with distractions. It means deciding what deserves your energy and what doesn't. It means being okay with missing out on things that don't add value to your life. You don't need to know everything that's happening in the world. You don't need to respond to every message right away. You don't need to prove your worth by staying busy. You just need to protect your peace. When you quiet the noise, you'll notice something strange at first. Silence feels uncomfortable. Your brain will want to fill it immediately. That's how overloaded minds react. But stay with it. Sit with the discomfort. Eventually the silence starts to feel like relief. You start hearing your own thoughts again, not the chaotic ones, but the calm, honest ones. You begin to see your problems more clearly. You realize what truly matters to you and what doesn't. Most people think they need more motivation, but what they really need is less noise. You don't need more inspiration, you need more focus. You don't need to add more to your life, you need to subtract what's unnecessary. Noise disguises itself as urgency. It makes everything feel equally important, when, in reality, only a few things actually matter. When you quiet the noise, your priorities become clear. You stop wasting energy on things that don't move you forward. Think about it. How many times have you been halfway through something meaningful when a random notification or thought distracted you? Every time you break your focus, your brain loses energy. You might think multitasking makes you efficient, but it doesn't. It drains your mental battery faster than you realize. To move fast in life, you have to slow your mind. You have to learn to do one thing at a time with full attention. The people who achieve the most aren't those who do everything. They're the ones who focus deeply on what matters most. They protect their attention like it's gold, because it is. Your attention shapes your life. Whatever holds your attention controls your direction. And right now, if constant noise holds your attention, it's controlling your pace. It's time to take your attention back. Start small. Spend a few minutes each day without your phone. Sit quietly. Notice your breathing. Notice your thoughts without reacting to them. You'll realize how loud your mind really is, and how much calmer it becomes when you stop feeding it constant stimulation. When you practice silence regularly, your brain learns to reset faster. It learns to focus longer. It learns to let go of what doesn't matter. The more you reduce noise, the more you regain mental energy. You'll start feeling lighter, more focused, more alive. You'll stop overanalyzing everything and start acting with purpose. You'll stop second-guessing yourself and start trusting your instinct. Because when your mind is quiet, you can finally hear that deeper voice, the one that guides you toward what you really want, not what the world tells you to want. Peace doesn't come from doing nothing, it comes from doing things with clarity. You can still be ambitious, driven, and passionate, just not at the cost of your mental peace. A calm mind doesn't mean a slow life, it means a meaningful one. When your thoughts are organized, your actions become sharper. When your emotions are balanced, your decisions become wiser. Every time you reduce noise by saying no to drama,
by limiting distractions, by spending time in silence. You're giving your brain the gift of clarity. You're allowing it to think clearly, to process information, to find direction, and that's when real progress begins. So if you've been feeling stuck lately, don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" Ask, "What's filling my mind?" Because chances are, it's not you that's broken, it's your attention that's being stolen. The mind that's always loud can't move forward. You have to quiet it first. Once you accept that the noise inside your head is what's slowing you down, you can finally do something about it. You can take control back. You can slow down the endless chatter. You can breathe again. And when you do, you'll realize that focus isn't something you have to chase. It's something that returns naturally when your mind is clear. Clarity is power. Stillness is strength. And silence, real silence, is where your next breakthrough begins.
Chapter 3. Stop confusing exhaustion with a lack of discipline. One of the biggest lies people tell themselves is that they're failing because they lack discipline. They look at their tired body, their foggy mind, their inability to focus, and they assume it's all a sign of weakness. They say, "I just need to be more disciplined." But what they don't realize is that discipline is impossible when the mind and body are exhausted. You can't expect yourself to run at full speed when you've been running on empty for too long. You don't lack discipline, you lack recovery. You don't need mere willpower, you need rest, clarity, and balance. We live in a culture that glorifies constant movement. People are praised for how busy they are, not how balanced they are. You scroll through social media and see people talking about grind and hustle as if exhaustion is proof of ambition. But exhaustion isn't proof of strength, it's proof that you've ignored your limits for too long. When your mind is tired, even the simplest tasks feel impossible. You start doubting things, thinking you're lazy or unmotivated when in truth you're just depleted. Exhaustion and laziness are not the same thing. Laziness is not wanting to move. Exhaustion is wanting to move, but not having the energy to, and most people don't know the difference. They push themselves harder, thinking discipline will fix everything. But it doesn't, because discipline doesn't work when your system is already burnt out. It's like trying to drive a car with no fuel. No matter how much you press the gas, you're not going anywhere. You can't expect consistency from a body that's begging for rest. You can't expect focus from a brain that's been overstimulated for weeks. You can't expect discipline from a soul that hasn't felt peace in a long time. The truth is, when your energy is drained, your motivation disappears too. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. Most people don't realize that exhaustion doesn't only come from physical effort. It comes from emotional stress, overthinking, anxiety, and constant digital stimulation. It comes from pretending to be fine when you're not. It comes from saying yes to everyone else and leaving no space for yourself. It comes from carrying silent battles that no one sees. When your mind is constantly in fight or flight mode, your body stays tense, your thoughts stay loud, and your energy drains faster than it can be restored. That's why some people sleep 8 hours, but still wake up tired, because rest isn't just about sleep. It's about the quality of peace you experience when you're awake. If your brain never feels safe to rest, no amount of sleep can recharge you. Mental exhaustion runs deeper than physical tiredness. It's not your muscles that are drained, it's your spirit. You might be waking up every day feeling guilty for not being more productive. You might be forcing yourself to keep going thinking you're fixing the problem, but that guilt is part of what's keeping you stuck. The more you push yourself without recharging, the less effective you become. And the less effective you become, the more guilty you feel, until you end up trapped in a cycle of burnout disguised as self-discipline. Real discipline isn't about forcing yourself through exhaustion. It's about knowing when to stop and recharge so you can come back stronger. It's about respecting your limits, not punishing yourself for having them. It's about understanding that rest is part of progress, not the absence of it. If you rest when you need to, you move further in the long run. If you ignore exhaustion, you'll break before you reach your goal. Think about it. When you're physically tired, you rest your body. You sit down, you take a breath, you recover. But when you're mentally or emotionally tired, most people don't give themselves that same grace. They tell themselves to push through, to try harder. But that's like telling someone who's bleeding to run faster. The problem isn't effort, it's energy. When you feel mentally overloaded, your thoughts become cloudy. You lose the ability to focus deeply. Small things start to feel overwhelming. You get irritated easily, you forget things, and you start questioning your purpose. These aren't signs of a lack of discipline, they're signs of fatigue. Your brain is asking for a reset, and ignoring that signal doesn't make you stronger. It only makes you weaker over time. You can't solve exhaustion with more effort, you solve it with recovery. That means disconnecting from the noise for a while. It means giving yourself permission to rest without guilt. It means allowing stillness to refuel your mind instead of forcing constant action. Because clarity and motivation come back when your mind is quiet. When you're rested, decisions become easier, focus comes naturally, and discipline feels effortless. We've been conditioned to believe that rest is a reward, not a requirement. We think we have to earn rest by working ourselves to exhaustion. But rest isn't a luxury, it's fuel. You don't earn fuel after driving 100 miles, you refill it so you can go further. The same goes for your mental energy. You don't rest because you're weak, you rest because you're wise enough to protect your strength. When you start giving your brain and body the recovery they need, you'll notice something powerful. Discipline becomes natural. You won't have to fight yourself to get things done, because your energy will support your actions. You'll stop procrastinating because your mind will be clear. You'll stop doubting yourself because your emotions won't be as heavy. Most people think they need more motivation, but what they really need is a rested mind. Look around and you'll see countless people living in a constant state of tiredness. They wake up tired, work tired, go to bed tired. They drink coffee to stay awake, and scroll their phones to distract their brains. They're overstimulated but underrested, and then they blame themselves for not being productive. They think they're lazy, when in reality they're just trying to function through mental exhaustion. True success doesn't come from running faster, it comes from learning when to pause. The strongest people aren't the ones who never stop, they're the ones who know when to slow down, so they can keep going for the long run. If you don't take time to rest, your body will eventually force you to. It'll come in the form of burnout, anxiety, or even health problems. Prevention is always easier than repair. There's a kind of peace that comes when you finally stop blaming yourself for being tired. When you finally understand that exhaustion isn't a personal flaw, it's a natural response to doing too much for too long without recovery. That understanding changes everything. It shifts your mindset from self-criticism to self-respect. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What do I need right now?" Sometimes, what you need is not another motivational video or productivity hack. It's a break. It's a day without pressure. It's a moment to breathe and just exist without trying to prove anything. That's not being lazy, that's being human. Every living thing in nature has rest built into its rhythm. The seasons, the tides, the daylight. Yet somehow, humans are the only ones who try to live non-stop. That's why we're constantly on edge. When you finally give yourself permission to rest, you start performing better. You think more clearly. You make better choices. You stop chasing busyness and start moving with purpose.
Your mind starts to heal, your energy starts to return, and your discipline becomes a natural extension of that renewal. That's the real secret behind consistent success. Balance, not burnout. Every great thinker, every leader, every successful person understands the value of balance. They don't work non-stop, they recover strategically, they create space for reflection. They know that their best ideas come when their mind is calm, not chaotic. You can't think creatively when you're mentally drowning. You can't be disciplined when your body is screaming for rest. Discipline without recovery leads to collapse, but recovery with purpose leads to strength. It's not about choosing between hard work and rest. It's about knowing when to switch between them. Work when your energy is high, rest when it's low. That rhythm keeps you consistent without breaking you. That's how you build a life that's productive and sustainable. So the next time you feel unmotivated, don't immediately blame yourself. Ask if you're actually just tired. Ask if your brain has had enough silence. Ask if your heart has had a moment to feel at peace. Because you can't demand more from yourself when you've given everything already. Sometimes, the most productive thing you can do is pause. You're not lazy for needing rest. You're not weak for feeling tired. You're human, and the moment you accept that truth, you regain power over your life. You stop treating yourself like a machine that must always perform, and start treating yourself like a living being that deserves balance. When you give yourself permission to recover, you discover a new kind of energy, the calm, focused energy that doesn't burn out. You stop working from pressure and start working from peace. You stop confusing exhaustion with laziness, and you finally start building momentum that lasts. Real discipline is not about ignoring your limits. It's about understanding them. It's about learning how to protect your energy so you can stay in the game long enough to win it. You can't control how fast life moves, but you can control how you respond to it. And sometimes, the best response is rest. Not as an escape, but as a strategy. Because the truth is, you were never lazy. You were just tired. Tired from carrying more than you were meant to. Once you learn to rest the right way, you'll realize discipline was never the problem. The noise, the pressure, and the exhaustion, remove those, and your strength will return, stronger, clearer, and more focused than ever.
Chapter 4. Understand that your motivation is buried under mental pressure. Most people think they've lost their motivation, but what they've really lost is their mental space. The drive to move forward is still there, it's just buried under too many layers of pressure, expectations, and unprocessed thoughts. Motivation doesn't disappear, it gets covered. It hides beneath the weight of everything you're holding inside, the deadlines, the overthinking, the self-doubt, the comparisons, and the constant noise of trying to keep up. You're not unmotivated, you're mentally overloaded. When your mind is full, even simple goals start feeling impossible. You want to take action, but your thoughts are too scattered to focus. You tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow never feels lighter. That's not a lack of drive, that's mental fatigue. The human brain was never meant to carry this much information, this many responsibilities, and this constant pressure to perform. When your mind is overwhelmed, motivation gets trapped underneath the chaos. It's there, but it's suffocating. Think about the last time you felt truly motivated. You probably had mental clarity. You knew what you wanted and felt energized to move toward it. That's because motivation thrives on space, mental, emotional, and even physical. But when your thoughts are packed with worry, your energy gets divided among too many things. You can't give your best to one direction because your focus is pulled in 10 different ones. Mental pressure doesn't always look like stress or panic. Sometimes it looks like silence, that blank stare at your phone, that scroll through social media where you don't even know what you're looking for. It's the feeling of being tired but unable to rest, of wanting to start something but not knowing how. It's the slow build of too many open mental tabs that never get closed. And in that chaos, your motivation doesn't die, it just gets buried deeper each day. The truth is, the brain needs space to breathe, just like the body needs oxygen. If you don't give it room to recover, it starts to shut down the parts that fuel your inspiration. That's why some people lose interest in things they once loved, not because they stopped caring, but because they're mentally drowning. When pressure builds up for too long, your natural excitement for life gets buried under the noise of survival. Mental overload is like carrying invisible weight. Every small task starts to feel heavy. You procrastinate not because you don't care, but because your mind can't find the energy to begin. You know what needs to be done, but your thoughts are too tangled to take the first step. This is what most people misunderstand. They punish themselves for lacking motivation, when in truth, their brain is simply exhausted from trying to manage too much at once. You can't be creative when you're mentally overloaded. You can't feel inspired when your mind is running in circles. Every time you say "I'm stuck," what you really mean is "I'm overwhelmed." The problem isn't laziness, it's overload. And the solution isn't pushing harder, it's releasing pressure. The more you clear your mental space, the easier it becomes to reconnect with your inner drive. When motivation disappears, your first instinct might be to look for more inspiration, new videos, new books, new advice. But inspiration only works when your mind has room to receive it. You can't fill a cup that's already overflowing. That's why it's not enough to add more motivational noise on top of mental clutter. You have to pause, unload, and give your thoughts somewhere to go. Mental pressure often comes from trying to meet too many expectations, other people's and your own. You want to be successful, reliable, productive, kind, and calm all at once. You expect perfection in every area of your life, and when you fall short, you turn against yourself. But no one can operate under that kind of internal tension forever. When your standards are too high and your self-compassion too low, burnout becomes inevitable. Your motivation doesn't come from guilt or pressure, it comes from alignment. It comes from being mentally and emotionally clear enough to see what truly matters. The moment you stop trying to meet impossible standards and start focusing on what feels meaningful, your drive starts to return. Because motivation isn't something you force, it's something you uncover. The human brain loves progress, but it also needs simplicity. If your to-do list is 20 items long, you'll feel defeated before you begin. But if you focus on one meaningful task, your energy starts to flow again. That's because clarity creates movement. Confusion and pressure create paralysis. You can't move forward when you're buried under mental weight. You can only move when you make space to breathe. You might not realize how much pressure you put on yourself every day. The constant internal dialogue, "I should be further ahead by now," "I can't waste time, I need to be perfect," drains more energy than any physical task. That voice doesn't motivate you, it wears you down. And the more it speaks, the quieter your natural motivation becomes. To hear your true drive again, you have to silence the noise of self-criticism. Mental overload also comes from overstimulation. Every notification, every piece of news, every endless scroll adds tiny drops of pressure to your mind. You think you're relaxing when you're scrolling, but you're actually filling your head with more input than it can process. Over time, this constant intake leaves no space for reflection or creativity. Your brain is busy processing, not creating. You can't feel motivated to act when your attention is constantly being hijacked. That's why peace isn't a luxury, it's a requirement for motivation. Your mind needs quiet to remember what matters.
It needs stillness to recharge your inner fire. It needs disconnection from the noise to reconnect with your purpose. The more you declutter your thoughts, the easier it becomes to act with clarity and energy. There's a simple truth most people miss. Motivation doesn't grow in chaos. It grows in calm. When your mind is constantly fighting pressure, it has no energy left for growth. But when you create mental space, ideas start flowing again. You feel lighter. You start wanting to move forward. That's your true motivation resurfacing, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. So how do you remove that pressure? Start by being honest with yourself about what's weighing you down. Write it out. Name it. The things you don't acknowledge keep controlling you. Once you see them clearly, they start to lose power. Maybe you're trying to live up to expectations that aren't yours. Maybe you're holding on to guilt, fear, or disappointment. Whatever it is, clarity is the first step to peace. Next, simplify your mental environment. Stop trying to do everything at once. Focus on what's essential. Break big goals into smaller ones. You don't have to fix everything today. You just have to start clearing space. Every time you say no to something that drains you, you're saying yes to your mental health. Every time you give yourself permission to rest, you're rebuilding your motivation from the ground up. And don't underestimate the power of silence. Spend a few moments each day without input, no screens, no noise, no task. At first it might feel uncomfortable because you're so used to stimulation. But that discomfort is your brain learning to breathe again. In that silence, your thoughts begin to slow down. You start hearing your own voice beneath all the noise. That's where real motivation begins, in stillness, not in chaos. You'll also need to release the pressure of comparison. You can't measure your growth by someone else's timeline. Constant comparison is one of the biggest thieves of motivation. It tricks your brain into feeling behind, even when you're making progress. When you stop competing with others and focus on your own pace, you rediscover joy in the process. And joy is what fuels consistency. Sometimes the pressure doesn't come from others, it comes from fear. Fear of failing, fear of being judged, fear of not being good enough. Fear freezes your energy and buries your confidence. The more you feed it, the heavier it becomes. But once you stop letting fear control your pace, motivation starts to breathe again. Because the truth is, your drive to grow is always stronger than your fear. It just needs space to emerge. Your motivation is never gone. It's simply trapped under too much mental clutter. The key isn't to push harder. It's to remove what's blocking it. When you do that, motivation comes back naturally. It's not something you have to chase. It's something that finds you when your mind is calm and your priorities are clear. And here's something powerful to remember. The mind works best when it feels safe. If you're constantly criticizing yourself, your brain stays in defense mode. It won't take risks. It won't create. It won't move forward freely. But when you start treating yourself with kindness and understanding, your mind relaxes. That's when motivation returns. Because the brain performs best when it feels supported, not attacked. You don't have to fix your entire life to feel motivated again. You just have to lift the mental weight that's been sitting on top of your energy. You'll notice it the moment it happens. Your thoughts become lighter, your focus sharper, your actions easier. You'll start wanting to move forward, not because you're forcing yourself to, but because it feels natural again. The truth is, motivation isn't a switch you turn on. It's a state you uncover when pressure fades. Every time you release a layer of stress, guilt, or noise, you give your inner drive more space to grow. You don't need to become a different person to feel motivated again. You just need to clear the clutter that's been hiding the version of you that already wants to grow. So stop blaming yourself for feeling stuck. You're not broken, and you're not lazy. You're simply tired of carrying too much. Once you understand that your motivation has been buried, not lost, everything changes. Because now you know what to do, not push harder, but breathe deeper. Not force progress, but clear space. And when you do, you'll find that your motivation was never gone. It was just waiting for you to make room for it again.
Chapter 5. Clear the mental clutter that keeps you from thinking straight. Your mind is a powerful tool, but even the sharpest tool can't cut through chaos. When your thoughts are scattered, your focus disappears. When you hold on to too many worries, regrets, and to-do lists at once, your mental energy drains faster than you can refill it. That's what mental clutter does. It quietly builds up until your mind feels foggy and heavy. You try to think clearly, but everything feels tangled. You start a task, get distracted, and forget what you were even doing. You don't lack intelligence or motivation. Your mind is simply too crowded to think straight. Mental clutter is the invisible weight you carry in silence. It's all the unfinished thoughts, open loops and emotional noise that never get sorted out. It's the constant thinking without rest about what you should have done, what you have to do, and what might go wrong. And because your brain never gets a chance to breathe, your clarity fades. You're mentally exhausted, not because life is impossible, but because your thoughts are unorganized and overloaded. Most people underestimate how much mental clutter affects their life. You might think it's just stress, but it goes deeper. It's the reason you can't make decisions quickly. It's why your creativity feels blocked. It's why you feel anxious even when nothing bad is happening. Your mind is full of open tabs, just like a computer with too many windows running at once. Everything slows down. You don't need a faster processor, you need to close the unnecessary tabs. When your head is full of noise, your inner voice becomes hard to hear. You can't tell what you truly want because too many thoughts are shouting at once. That's why clearing mental clutter isn't about emptying your mind completely. It's about giving your real thoughts space to breathe. You can't focus on what matters when you're busy carrying everything at once. The first step to clearing mental clutter is awareness. Most people walk around unaware of how much mental junk they carry daily. They confuse busyness with progress, noise with importance, and activity with achievement. But mental overload doesn't lead to clarity, it leads to burnout. The brain is meant to process, not store. When you try to keep everything in your head, your mind becomes a messy room you can't think clearly in. Think about it. When your physical space is cluttered, you struggle to find things. It's the same with your mind. Every unprocessed thought, every unmade decision, every small worry takes up space. You might not see it, but your brain feels it. That's why you sometimes wake up tired even after sleeping, because your mind never stopped working. It's been carrying too much mental baggage. You clear clutter not by adding more thoughts, but by releasing the ones that don't serve you. Start by identifying what's crowding your mental space. Write down the things that are bothering you, even the small ones. When you see them on paper, they lose power. Thoughts that stay in your head multiply, but once you externalize them, they stop looping. This simple act gives your brain relief. It no longer has to keep track of every detail. The second step is to question what deserves your attention. Not every thought is worth keeping. Your brain doesn't need to replay every mistake or rehearse every possible future scenario. You have to decide which thoughts are useful and which are just mental noise. Ask yourself, does this thought help me move forward, or does it keep me stuck? If it drains you, it doesn't deserve to stay. Clearing clutter also means forgiving yourself for not being perfect. Mental mess often builds up from guilt. Guilt for not doing enough, for not being enough, for not having it all figured out. But that guilt only adds confusion. You can't think straight when your mind is fighting itself. Forgive yourself for what you didn't know before, and focus on what you can do now. Every time you let go of guilt,
you make space for clarity. A cluttered mind also comes from too much input. Every day, you take in more information than your brain can handle. Social media posts, news updates, emails, conversations, and endless notifications. The constant flow of data doesn't just distract you, it fragments your attention. You jump from one thing to another, never fully present. To clear mental clutter, you have to limit what enters your mental space. Silence is not laziness, it's maintenance. Every moment of quiet helps your brain reset. There's another kind of clutter, emotional clutter. These are the unresolved feelings you avoid. The anger you didn't express, the disappointment you buried, the sadness you ignored. You think pushing them down helps you move forward, but suppressed emotions don't disappear. They sit in the background, adding weight to your thoughts. You don't have to dwell on them forever, but you do have to acknowledge them. Sometimes the best way to clear your head is to simply allow yourself to feel. Many people live in constant reaction mode, reacting to stress, to people, to every small problem that appears. That constant mental reactivity creates clutter. Instead of responding thoughtfully, you respond emotionally. To change that, you must slow down. Before reacting, pause. Ask yourself what the situation really requires. Most things don't need your immediate attention, they need your calm perspective. When your mind is clear, you make better choices. You stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter. You regain focus, direction, and confidence. The people who appear calm under pressure aren't born that way. They simply know how to clear their mental clutter. They don't carry everything at once. They prioritize, release, and move on. It's easy to say, "I'll think about it later," but every later adds more to your mind. Procrastination is a form of mental clutter. It keeps unfinished tasks floating in your subconscious, quietly stressing you. You don't have to do everything immediately, but you do need a system to keep your thoughts organized. Write it down, schedule it, or decide to drop it, but don't let it linger. Unfinished thoughts weigh more than completed ones. Sometimes mental clutter also comes from trying to please everyone. When you spend too much time worrying about how others see you, your mind becomes filled with other people's opinions. You start living to meet expectations instead of your own truth. To think clearly, you need boundaries. You can't carry the weight of everyone's judgment and still expect peace. Learn to say no without guilt. Protect your focus like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. Clearing mental clutter doesn't mean avoiding responsibility. It means organizing your thoughts so you can handle them with strength. A clear mind can do more with less effort. It can see patterns, make connections, and find solutions faster. When your mind is clean, even challenges feel manageable. When it's cluttered, even small problems feel overwhelming. To declutter your thoughts, start your day with clarity instead of chaos. Don't grab your phone the moment you wake up. Give your mind a few minutes of silence before you absorb the world. Write down 3 priorities, not 30, and commit to finishing them. The brain loves completion. Every time you finish something, it rewards you with calmness and satisfaction. That builds momentum and focus. At night, unload your thoughts before you sleep. Reflect on the day. Write down what went well and what's still on your mind. Empty your brain of unnecessary noise before resting. The more you carry into sleep, the less rest you get. Your mind deserves to end each day lighter than it started. Mental clutter doesn't just affect your thoughts. It affects your emotions and relationships. When your mind is full, you become impatient, distracted, and detached. You can't truly listen to others because you're already full of your own noise. Clearing mental clutter helps you become more present, both with yourself and with others. You start connecting instead of just existing beside people. Clarity also helps you regain confidence. When your thoughts are scattered, doubt grows. You question everything, including yourself. But when your mind is clear, decisions feel easier. You stop second-guessing and start trusting your judgment again. That inner calm isn't something you're born with. It's something you build by clearing what clouds your mental space. Every time you clear clutter, you're not just freeing your mind, you're strengthening it. You're teaching yourself to separate what matters from what doesn't. You're training your brain to focus on peace, not pressure. You start seeing life as it is, not as your overthinking paints it to be. And this is the truth. You can't live a calm life with a chaotic mind. The world will always bring noise. That's not something you can control. But what you can control is what stays inside. You can choose what to hold on to and what to release. The quality of your thoughts shapes the quality of your life. If your mind is full of clutter, your life will feel cluttered too. When you start cleaning your inner space, everything changes. You think clearer. You sleep better. You stop reacting to every small problem. You start noticing small joys again. Things you were too mentally busy to see before. You feel lighter, not because life got easier, but because your mind. You owe it to yourself to have a peaceful mind. You don't have to live in constant mental chaos. You have the power to organize your thoughts, to release what doesn't serve you, and to create clarity within. Don't wait for peace to appear. Create it by removing what blocks it. Because once your mind is clear, you'll realize something powerful. Your focus returns, your energy rises, and your motivation starts flowing again. You'll no longer feel stuck, because mental clarity gives direction. The moment your thoughts align, your actions follow effortlessly. You're not failing because you can't focus. You're struggling because your mental space is crowded, and that's something you can change. Start today, one thought at a time, one worry at a time. Clear your mental room, and you'll find your peace waiting right where you left it, underneath all the noise you no longer need to carry.
Chapter 6. Give yourself permission to pause without feeling guilty about it. You've spent so long pushing yourself that rest now feels like weakness. The world has taught you that pausing means you're falling behind, that stopping means you're lazy, and that slowing down means you're losing, but that's not true. You're not falling behind when you rest. You're recovering your strength to go further. The truth is, your body and mind are constantly sending signals when they need a break. The problem is, you've been trained to ignore them. You convince yourself that you'll rest later, after this task, after this week, after this goal. But later never comes, because the list never ends. Most people don't burn out because they're weak. They burn out because they keep running on empty while pretending they're fine. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't think clearly when your mind is drained. The pause you resist so much is the very thing that would bring back your energy, clarity, and creativity. But guilt stands in the way. Guilt makes you believe that if you stop, you'll disappoint someone or waste time. That guilt isn't natural, it's learned. You were conditioned to believe that your value comes only from constant action. Society celebrates hustle, not healing. But what's the point of constant motion if you're heading toward exhaustion? A pause doesn't mean you've given up. It means you're self-aware enough to know your limits. Even machines overheat and need to cool down. Why do you think the human mind is any different? When you don't pause, your thoughts start to collide. You lose patience, your focus fades, and everything feels heavier. You start making mistakes. Not because you don't care, but because your brain is tired. Rest isn't laziness, it's maintenance. It's what allows you to keep showing up without breaking apart inside. Giving yourself permission to pause starts with changing your mindset about rest. You must stop treating rest as a reward and start treating it as a requirement. Just as your phone needs to recharge every night, your brain needs regular moments of stillness. When you rest, your mind isn't doing nothing, it's repairing. It's sorting through information, storing memories, balancing your emotions, and rebuilding your focus. A rested mind is sharper, kinder, and more creative. Think about it. How many times have you been stuck on a problem, only to find the answer after stepping away? That's not coincidence. That's how your mind works. Clarity comes in stillness, not in chaos. But when you never stop, you never give your brain the chance to breathe. You try to think your way out of burnout instead of resting your way back to balance. And that's why so many people stay stuck. They keep pushing when what they actually need is to pause. It's not just physical exhaustion that hurts you, it's emotional and mental exhaustion too. The constant pressure to do more, be more, and prove more can wear you down quietly. You may look fine on the outside but feel completely drained inside. And yet when you finally consider resting, guilt whispers, "You don't deserve it yet." That voice isn't truth, it's fear. Fear that if you stop, someone will outwork you. Fear that your progress will disappear. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if your progress depends on rest? The people who achieve long-term success aren't the ones who never stop. They're the ones who know when to pause. They know that resting is part of growing. You can't think big if your mind is small from exhaustion. You can't dream clearly if you're drowning in fatigue. You need quiet moments to reset your perspective and reconnect with your reason for doing all of this in the first place. Pausing doesn't mean taking weeks off or escaping from life completely. Sometimes it's 5 minutes of breathing before jumping into the next task. Sometimes it's stepping outside for fresh air instead of scrolling through your phone. Sometimes it's saying no to one more obligation, so you can finally say yes to your peace. The pause doesn't have to be long, it just has to be intentional. It's not the length of the break that matters, it's the quality of it. A real pause is one where you let go of the noise in your head and come back to yourself. You stop thinking about what's next and start noticing what's now. You let your shoulders drop, your jaw relax, and your breath slow down. That small moment of presence is how you reset your nervous system. It's how you tell your mind, "I'm safe, I don't need to fight right now." But here's the hardest part. You have to learn to pause without needing permission from anyone else. You have to learn to rest even when the world keeps running. You have to stop justifying your need for quiet time. You don't owe anyone an explanation for taking care of your mental health. You don't have to earn rest by first exhausting yourself. You deserve to breathe simply because you're human. The guilt of resting is something almost everyone carries. You feel guilty when you're not being productive, as if your worth depends on constant achievement. That belief is dangerous because it makes you chase validation instead of balance. Productivity without purpose leads to burnout, not fulfillment. The truth is, rest is part of productivity. You can't produce anything meaningful if you're empty inside. When you pause, you reconnect with what really matters. You start noticing how you feel instead of just what you're doing. You realize how much you've been ignoring your body's signals, the tight chest, the constant tension, the mental fog. These aren't random. They're signs that your system is overloaded. Ignoring them doesn't make you strong. It makes you unstable. Listening to them doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. If you've been running for too long, maybe the most productive thing you can do right now is stop. Sit in silence. Breathe deeply. Let your body rest without rushing to fix everything. The world won't fall apart if you pause, but you might fall apart if you don't. Sometimes the strongest choice is not to keep pushing, but to allow yourself to recharge. You have to redefine what success means for you. Success isn't measured by how busy you are. It's measured by how peaceful you feel. It's not about how many tasks you complete in a day, but how much energy you have left at the end of it. If your achievements come at the cost of your sanity,
They're not achievements, they're warnings. Rest is not the opposite of success. It's part of sustaining it. One of the most powerful things you can do for yourself is to normalize slowing down. You can't always operate at full speed. Seasons exist for a reason. Everything in nature rests. The trees pause in winter. The ocean calms between waves. Even the sun sets to rise again. You're part of that same rhythm. You don't have to fight it. Pausing is part of your natural cycle of growth. When you rest without guilt, something shifts inside you. You begin to trust yourself again. You realize that the world keeps moving. And that's okay. You don't have to race it. You realize that your value doesn't come from constant doing, but from simply being. You realize that taking a pause doesn't make you fall behind. It helps you align. Start small. Take a few minutes each day to check in with yourself. Ask, how do I really feel right now? What do I need at this moment? Am I pushing myself out of purpose or pressure? These questions bring awareness. Awareness brings peace. Peace brings energy, and energy brings clarity. Rest looks different for everyone. For some, it's quiet time alone. For others, it's laughing with people they love. It could be reading, walking, or sitting in stillness. The point isn't what you do, it's that you allow yourself to stop doing for a while. You give yourself permission to exist without needing to achieve. That's when real restoration begins. Over time you'll notice something powerful. When you rest without guilt, your focus sharpens. You become more creative, more present, more grounded. You start making decisions with clarity instead of panic. You stop living in constant survival mode. You stop waiting for weekends or vacations to breathe. Every day begins to have space for peace. The truth is, life isn't a race, it's a rhythm. There will be moments to move fast and moments to slow down. The secret is knowing which one you need right now. And if what you need is a pause, don't let guilt steal it from you. You're not weak for resting. You're not lazy for needing time. You're human. And humans aren't built to run endlessly. Your worth isn't measured by how much you do. It's reflected in how you care for yourself. While doing it, a rested mind performs better. A calm heart loves deeper. A clear head makes wiser choices. When you give yourself permission to pause, you're not stepping back. You're preparing to step forward with more strength and clarity than before. You deserve peace. You deserve stillness. You deserve to stop and breathe, without justifying it to anyone, including yourself. Life isn't asking you to burn out to prove your value. It's asking you to live it fully. And that starts by allowing yourself to rest without guilt. So take a breath, slow down, and remember this truth. Stopping doesn't mean quitting. It means you care enough about your journey to make it sustainable.
Chapter 7. Learn to focus on fewer things so you can actually move forward. When you feel mentally overloaded, your attention fractures into 1,000 directions, and you end up moving very little despite feeling like you're doing everything. You wake up with a long to-do list, tackle one thing, get distracted by another, and by evening, you're exhausted yet frustrated because it feels like nothing significant got done. The truth is, your brain can only give its best focus to a limited number of things at a time. Trying to handle everything at once doesn't make you productive. It makes you scattered, stressed, and stuck. Real progress comes when you decide to focus on fewer things, but give them your full attention. It begins by being honest with yourself about what truly matters right now. Many people carry unnecessary mental baggage, tasks, obligations, ideas that aren't urgent or important. Your mind treats all of this as if it's critical, which keeps it spinning in circles. Learning to filter what deserves attention is essential. Ask yourself, which 3 things, if I completed them today, would move me forward most? Focusing on fewer things doesn't mean you're doing less, it means you're doing what counts. Once you identify the priorities, you need to commit fully to them. Half-hearted attention wastes energy and prolongs stress. When you start a task, immerse yourself in it completely. Shut off distractions, stop multitasking, and let your brain operate at peak efficiency. You'll notice the difference immediately. Work feels smoother, ideas flow clearer, and the constant mental chatter quiets down. It's like clearing a fog from a window. Suddenly, everything becomes visible, and direction returns. This focus also protects your mental energy. Each time you switch between tasks, your brain has to readjust, consuming energy and reducing clarity. Every unnecessary shift increases fatigue. By limiting your focus to fewer tasks, you conserve mental power, making it easier to think clearly and make decisions without hesitation. You stop feeling drained by constant mental toggling. Sometimes, saying no is the hardest part. You'll encounter requests, notifications, and internal pressures that tempt you to scatter your attention. Saying no doesn't make you lazy. It means you respect your own capacity and value progress over busyness. Protecting your focus is a skill that requires discipline. It's not selfish, it's strategic. Those who master it consistently achieve more because they harness their energy rather than letting it leak in every direction. Breaking your day into focused sessions can help solidify this habit. Allocate time blocks to your key priorities, and during those periods, give them your full attention. Don't let social media, emails, or random tasks steal these windows. Treat these periods as sacred, as if your progress depends on them, because it does. Your mind works best in structured focus, not in chaotic multitasking. Another important element is simplifying your environment. Physical and digital clutter also scatter attention. When your workspace is clean and your devices organized, your brain doesn't have to process unnecessary stimuli, freeing up capacity to concentrate on what matters. Small changes like organizing your desk, closing unrelated tabs, or silencing notifications can dramatically enhance your ability to focus. Mental clarity also improves when you write things down. Capture every task, worry, or idea on paper or in a digital tool. When your brain no longer has to hold everything in memory, it can devote energy to active problem solving. Externalizing tasks lets you see which ones are truly important and which ones can wait. This simple act dramatically reduces mental overload. Focus on quality over quantity. Completing a few tasks with excellence outweighs tackling everything superficially. When you finish fewer things with precision, your confidence grows, momentum builds, and mental clutter diminishes. Each completed priority is proof that you're moving forward, even if the list isn't fully checked off. Progress is measured in meaningful steps, not endless busyness. It's also vital to recognize the signs of mental fatigue and redirect attention accordingly. If you notice your mind wandering, decision-making slowing, or frustration rising, that's a signal that even focused work requires a break. Brief pauses, deep breathing, or a short walk can restore clarity and help maintain high-quality attention. Pushing through mental exhaustion only diffuses your focus further and prolongs stress. Develop routines that reinforce concentrated effort. Begin each day by listing your top priorities and reviewing them consistently. End each day by assessing what truly moved the needle. This practice keeps your mind aligned with meaningful action rather than reacting to every distraction. Over time, focusing on fewer things becomes instinctive, and mental overload diminishes naturally. Reducing mental load isn't just about productivity, it's about well-being. When your attention is scattered, stress accumulates and anxiety rises. By choosing to focus on fewer things, you reclaim a sense of control. Your days become more manageable,
your sleep improves, and your energy levels stabilize. The brain isn't designed to handle endless input simultaneously. Honoring its limits is essential for long-term performance. Remember, progress doesn't require doing everything at once. It requires doing the right things consistently. Momentum comes from depth, not breadth. Each completed priority strengthens confidence, reinforces discipline, and builds a foundation for tackling larger challenges. Scattered attention may create the illusion of busyness, but concentrated focus creates tangible results. This principle also applies to long-term goals. Instead of juggling multiple ambitions simultaneously, concentrate on one or two at a time. Break these goals into actionable steps and devote your attention fully. Trying to advance in 10 areas at once leads to burnout and frustration. Focusing deeply in a few areas produces sustainable growth, and your mental load decreases naturally as progress builds. Focusing on fewer things also improves decision-making. When your mind isn't juggling endless priorities, choices become clearer, faster, and more effective. You make better judgments about where to invest energy and which opportunities to pursue. Your confidence rises because each choice is deliberate, not reactionary. Accountability can further enhance focus. Share your key priorities with a trusted friend, mentor, or colleague. Verbalizing your focus commitments reinforces discipline and provides motivation. Others can help you stay aligned when distractions tempt you to scatter attention. Mindfulness strengthens this approach. Being present in each task allows your brain to fully engage, reducing mistakes and boosting efficiency. Awareness of how you're spending your mental energy prevents unconscious drift into less important activity. Practicing mindfulness for even a few minutes daily improves your ability to maintain attention where it matters most. Learn to embrace monotask. Completing one task before starting another may feel slow at first, but the quality of work and clarity gained far outweighs the speed illusion of multitasking. The brain is not designed for simultaneous complex thought. Monotasking allows ideas to develop fully and decisions to emerge with confidence. Finally, be patient with yourself. Learning to focus on fewer things is a skill, not a switch. Habits take time to form. There will be days when distractions prevail or priorities blur. That's normal. Reflect on progress regularly, adjust methods, and continue practicing. Consistency compounds over time, producing results you didn't expect. When you commit to focusing on fewer things, the mental overload that once paralyzed you begins to lift. You experience clarity instead of chaos, energy instead of fatigue, and forward movement instead of stagnation. Each completed priority is a victory that builds momentum and confidence. The mind finally feels spacious, capable, and ready for deliberate action. The essence of this practice is simple. Stop trying to do everything, and start doing what truly matters. By narrowing focus, you give your brain the space it needs to work at its best. You stop spinning your wheels, reduce stress, and achieve real progress. Life doesn't reward frantic busyness. It rewards clarity, precision, and persistence. Fewer things done well lead to more progress than many things done poorly. Concentrate, commit, and protect your focus, honor your mental capacity, and recognize the power in narrowing your attention. When you do this, you finally move forward in a way that feels sustainable, intentional, and empowering. Your mind stops being overwhelmed and starts becoming a tool for achieving what truly matters. Focus is your superpower. Guard it, cultivate it, and invest it wisely. The less you scatter your energy, the more you create. The fewer tasks you juggle, the clearer your mind becomes. And the more your mind is clear, the stronger your progress, confidence, and resilience will grow. When you narrow your focus, you finally give yourself the chance to move forward fully, deliberately, and powerfully.
Chapter 8. Listen to your body when it tells you it's reaching its limit. When your mind is overloaded, it's easy to ignore what your body is trying to tell you. You push through fatigue, tension, and discomfort, thinking that working harder is the solution. You may feel a tightness in your chest, a heaviness in your head, or a constant headache that never seems to lift. These are not signs of weakness or failure. These are signals. Your body is giving you essential feedback about your limits and your current capacity. Recognizing these signals is the first step toward regaining balance, clarity, and sustained productivity. Ignoring them leads to more stress, reduced performance, and potentially serious health issues. Listening to your body begins with awareness. Pay attention to subtle cues, shallow breathing, restless muscles, or racing thoughts. These are not random sensations. They reflect the mental and physical load you've been carrying. When these signs appear, acknowledge them honestly rather than dismissing them as unimportant. Pretending the sensations aren't there only adds layers to your stress. Accept that your body is a communication system, and it deserves respect. Once you recognize the signals, give yourself permission to act on them. This doesn't mean stopping your work completely or giving up on goals. It means responding in a way that preserves energy and restores balance. A short break, a few deep breaths, or even stepping away from your workspace can reset your mental state and prevent further overload. These small actions compound into larger improvements in focus, resilience, and clarity. Your body doesn't demand long periods of rest to recover. Consistent, mindful pauses are far more effective. Nutrition, hydration, and sleep are also essential parts of listening to your body. Overlooked meals, dehydration, or insufficient sleep intensify mental overload and reduce your capacity to think clearly. Fueling your body properly is not indulgence. It is a requirement for maintaining sustained mental energy. Even small adjustments, like drinking water regularly or prioritizing sleep over extra work hours, can drastically improve your ability to process information and make decisions without fatigue clouding judgment. Movement is another critical component. When your body is tense or stagnant, your mind struggles to maintain clarity. Gentle stretching, walking, or even brief exercise sessions improve circulation, release tension, and support cognitive function. You may feel resistance at first, thinking you don't have time, but these moments of activity are investments that allow you to work more effectively and avoid burnout. Your body and mind are interconnected. When one is neglected, both suffer. Breathing techniques can also signal your body that it's safe to relax. When mental overload triggers shallow, rapid breathing, the body enters a state of stress. Taking slow, deep breaths, focusing on inhalation and exhalation, calms the nervous system and signals to your brain that it's time to shift from high alert mode. Even 1 or 2 minutes of conscious breathing can reduce tension, clear your mind, and restore perspective. Learn to distinguish between temporary discomfort and real overload. Mental effort naturally creates some tension, but chronic fatigue, persistent anxiety, or prolonged physical strain indicate that your body is reaching its limit. Recognize these as boundaries that require attention, not as failures. Respecting these boundaries doesn't slow progress. It strengthens your capacity to handle future challenges with consistency and resilience. Listening to your body also means adjusting your pace. Productivity is not measured by how long you can push yourself, but by how effectively you can perform while maintaining well-being. Slowing down strategically allows you to focus more deeply, think more clearly, and prevent errors that arise from fatigue. Overloading your system in the pursuit of speed or volume often backfires, resulting in setbacks that take longer to recover from than if you had respected your limits initially. Your emotional state is tightly linked to physical signals. Irritability, impatience, or lack of motivation often accompany physical exhaustion. These emotions are not random. They are your body's way of telling you it's overloaded. Recognizing this connection helps you respond with care rather than frustration. Responding thoughtfully through rest, nutrition, hydration, or gentle activity can stabilize emotions and improve your capacity to handle challenges calmly and effectively. Accountability helps reinforce this practice. Share with a trusted friend, colleague, or mentor that you are actively monitoring your body and mind for signs of overload. External accountability can prevent you from ignoring signals or pushing past healthy limits out of habit or pride. Having someone who checks in on your well-being encourages consistent attention to physical cues, which in turn supports mental clarity and sustained performance. Creating a routine that integrates body awareness into your day is essential. Begin with small checks at regular intervals. Notice posture, tension, or fatigue levels. Adjust as needed. Stand up, stretch, hydrate, or take a mindful pause. Over time, this practice becomes automatic, and your mind learns to rely on your body's signals as a guide for pacing work, making decisions, and preserving mental energy. Reflection at the end of each day solidifies this habit. Assess how your body responded throughout the day and how you addressed those signals. Did you notice tension early enough? Did you take appropriate breaks? Did nutrition, sleep, and movement support your focus? Reflection allows you to identify patterns, make adjustments, and develop proactive strategies to maintain balance before overload escalates. Stress management techniques complement listening to your body. Meditation, journaling, or brief mindfulness exercises reduce the buildup of physical and mental tension. These practices provide a mental reset while also signaling your nervous system to relax. Over time, consistent stress management improves your ability to recognize early signs of overload and respond effectively, preventing breakdowns or prolonged fatigue. Understand that rest is productive. Rest is not a sign of laziness. It's a strategic tool that supports focus, creativity, and efficiency. High-performing individuals prioritize rest because they know that mental and physical recovery enhances performance. When you honor your body's signals for rest, you are investing in your long-term capacity to tackle challenges, not avoiding them. Listening to your body also involves setting boundaries. Recognize when to say no to additional responsibilities or social obligations that contribute to overload. Protecting your time and energy preserves focus for tasks that truly matter. Boundaries are not restrictive, they are liberating, allowing you to allocate mental and physical resources where they create the most impact. Implementing small rituals can enhance body awareness. A morning stretch, midday walk, or evening reflection creates consistent checkpoints for monitoring physical state. These rituals anchor your day, provide predictable opportunities to rest, and reinforce the habit of attending to physical cues before they escalate into exhaustion. It is essential to integrate movement with mental tasks. When working on demanding cognitive projects, schedule brief breaks to move, stand, walk, or stretch to release tension and restore blood flow. These actions improve focus and prevent the cumulative strain that mental overload places on the body. Neglecting this connection reduces efficiency and increases fatigue, whereas consistent integration enhances endurance and clarity. Sleep hygiene is another cornerstone of listening to your body. Prioritize consistent bedtimes, reduce screen exposure before sleep, and create an environment conducive to rest. Quality sleep resets the nervous system, restores energy, and allows the mind to consolidate learning and process emotion. Chronic sleep deprivation undermines all efforts to manage mental overload and maintain focus. Nutrition plays a foundational role, fueling your body with balanced meals, staying hydrated, and avoiding excessive stimulants or sugar spikes. Stabilize energy levels and reduce cognitive fatigue. Your brain cannot function optimally when the body is running on inadequate or inconsistent fuel. By honoring your body's nutritional needs, you directly enhance mental clarity and resilience. Listening to your body when it signals limits transforms your approach to productivity. Instead of pushing blindly, you adopt a strategic rhythm that balances effort with recovery. Each pause, adjustment, and act of self-care
builds a stronger foundation for sustained mental performance. Over time, your body becomes a reliable guide, preventing unnecessary stress and optimizing focus, energy, and emotional stability. Develop self-compassion alongside body awareness. Acknowledge that feeling tired, tense, or stressed is human, not a personal failure. Treat these signals as invitations to care for yourself, rather than evidence of weakness. Responding with kindness enhances both mental and physical health, creating a sustainable approach to handling life's demands. In practice, listening to your body requires consistency, patience, and honesty. It is easy to fall back into ignoring signs of overload due to habit, pressure, or pride. Regularly tuning in, responding appropriately, and reflecting on outcomes strengthens this skill. Over time, you build a reliable internal feedback system that prevents prolonged mental overload and supports long-term growth. By integrating body awareness into your daily routine, you regain control over mental energy. Fatigue is no longer a vague obstacle, but a clear signal guiding action. Focus becomes sharper, decision-making improves, and emotional regulation strengthens. Mental overload loses its power, and your energy becomes a manageable, predictable resource, rather than a constant source of frustration. The core lesson is straightforward. Your body communicates constantly, and your performance depends on listening. When physical cues indicate limits, respond deliberately. Pause, hydrate, move, rest, and care for yourself. This responsiveness creates a sustainable cycle of energy, focus, and productivity. Mental overload diminishes because your body's needs are honored consistently, transforming exhaustion into clarity and chaos into controlled progress. When you train yourself to listen to your body, each day becomes more manageable, more effective, and more empowering. You stop confusing fatigue with failure and recognize that rest, recovery, and awareness are active strategies for progress. Your body becomes a partner in your mental performance, guiding you toward balance, focus, and sustained achievement. The mind-body connection is no longer ignored. It is leveraged, ensuring that mental overload is replaced by controlled energy, deliberate action, and meaningful forward movement.
Chapter 9. Rebuild your mental space before chasing another goal. When your mind feels cluttered and overloaded, it becomes almost impossible to move forward effectively. You might feel restless, distracted, or even paralyzed when trying to focus on a task or pursue a goal. This mental chaos is not a reflection of laziness or lack of ability. It is a sign that your mental space is crowded and needs rebuilding before you can take on anything new. Attempting to chase another goal while your mind is scattered only compounds stress and reduces your chances of success. Taking deliberate steps to reorganize your thoughts and regain clarity is essential for sustained productivity and meaningful progress. Rebuilding mental space starts with acknowledging the overload. Identify the areas where your mind feels most cluttered. These could be unfinished tasks, unresolved emotions, or lingering worries. Write them down or organize them visually. The act of externalizing your thoughts reduces mental load and provides a clearer picture of what truly needs attention. This process is not about avoiding responsibilities, but about creating a manageable structure for your mind to operate within. Next, prioritize what actually matters. Not every thought, task, or obligation requires immediate action. Determine which items align with your highest priorities and which can be postponed, delegated, or eliminated. This selective attention frees up mental bandwidth and prevents overwhelm. Mental space is not just about having fewer tasks. It is about focusing on the right tasks with intention and clarity. Decluttering also involves clearing emotional baggage. Lingering frustration, regret, or anxiety takes up mental space and saps energy. Address these emotions directly through journaling, reflection, or discussion with a trusted friend or mentor. Processing emotions prevents them from silently occupying mental real estate and interfering with decision-making. Each emotional issue you resolve creates room for clarity and constructive thinking. Incorporate structured breaks into your day. Mental rest is not optional. It is a strategic tool for rebuilding cognitive capacity. Short pauses, mindfulness exercises, or brief walks provide the brain with opportunities to recover and reset. During these breaks, avoid digital distractions that can introduce new noise. The goal is to allow the mind to breathe and reorganize, which enhances focus and creativity when you return to work. Physical organization contributes to mental clarity. A cluttered workspace can reinforce mental chaos, making it harder to focus. Clear your desk, organize files, and establish a functional environment that supports concentration. When your physical surroundings reflect order, your mind finds it easier to maintain structure and resist distraction. This alignment between external and internal space strengthens your ability to pursue goals without mental resistance. Simplify your daily routines. Mental overload often arises from unnecessary complexity in your habits. Streamline decisions, reduce friction, and create predictable patterns that minimize cognitive load. Automate repetitive tasks and remove choices that do not directly contribute to your objective. By reducing mental effort spent on trivial matters, you free up energy for more meaningful pursuits and decision-making. Mindfulness techniques are powerful tools for mental rebuilding. Focused attention on the present moment reduces mental chatter and allows your mind to reset. Meditation, breathing exercises, or conscious observation of surroundings help anchor attention and prevent spiraling thoughts. These practices cultivate the ability to notice when mental clutter is accumulating and to intervene before it interferes with progress. Sleep is critical for restoring mental capacity. Chronic sleep deprivation impairs memory, decision-making, and emotional regulation, leaving mental space cramped and ineffective. Prioritize consistent sleep schedules and create an environment conducive to restorative rest. Quality sleep allows your brain to process information, consolidate learning, and remove cognitive clutter accumulated throughout the day. Without adequate rest, all efforts to rebuild mental space are significantly hindered. Digital hygiene also matters. Constant notifications, social media, and multitasking bombard your mind with stimuli that take up valuable cognitive space. Establish boundaries for digital consumption and schedule dedicated periods for focused work without interruption. Reduce exposure to unnecessary input that does not support your priorities. By controlling digital influx, you maintain a clearer mental environment for strategic thinking and goal pursuit. Reflection at the end of each day reinforces mental rebuilding. Review accomplishments, unresolved tasks, and emotional responses. This practice allows you to release unproductive thoughts and reinforce focus on what truly matters. Reflection prevents accumulation of mental clutter and provides insight into patterns that may otherwise go unnoticed. Over time, this habit strengthens self-awareness and enhances the ability to manage cognitive load effectively. Incorporate physical activity as part of mental maintenance. Exercise not only benefits the body, but also improves mood, attention, and cognitive function. Movement reduces stress hormones, stimulates blood flow to the brain, and supports neuroplasticity. Regular activity clears mental fog and prepares your mind for focused, high-quality work. Neglecting physical health prolongs cognitive overload and hinders recovery. Nutrition also impacts cognitive space. Consuming balanced meals with proper hydration supports energy, concentration, and emotional stability. Skipping meals or relying on sugar spikes increases mental fatigue and emotional reactivity. Treating your body as a partner in mental clarity ensures that your mind has the resources it needs to rebuild and maintain focus. Establish boundaries to protect mental space. Saying no to non-essential commitments and avoiding toxic influences allows your cognitive capacity to be preserved for meaningful work. Overcommitting or engaging with draining environments adds clutter to the mind and inhibits goal achievement.
Intentional boundary setting is a proactive strategy for maintaining a clear and focused mental landscape. Develop a system for organizing thoughts and tasks. Use lists, calendars, or digital tools to externalize responsibility. This removes the pressure of keeping everything in your head and reduces mental fatigue. When tasks are tracked and scheduled, the mind can focus on immediate priorities rather than juggling multiple concerns simultaneously. Organized thinking leads to greater confidence and more decisive action. Practice single tasking instead of multitasking. Switching between tasks increases mental load and diminishes efficiency. Focus on completing one task at a time to fully engage cognitive resources and maintain clarity. Deep focus allows higher quality output and reduces the accumulation of mental clutter that arises from scattered attention. Cultivate self-compassion during this rebuilding process. Recognize that mental overload is a natural response to modern life pressures and not a personal failure. Avoid self-criticism, which adds unnecessary stress. Treat yourself with understanding and patience, creating an internal environment conducive to focus and clarity. Compassion supports resilience and sustains long-term cognitive health. Gradually reintroduce new goals once mental space has been restored. Begin with manageable steps, ensuring that energy and attention are fully available. Avoid rushing into additional responsibilities before clarity is achieved. Strategic pacing ensures that each goal is approached with intention, focus, and the capacity to follow through effectively. Accountability reinforces mental rebuilding. Share progress with a mentor, coach, or trusted friend. External support helps maintain consistency, identify blind spots, and provide encouragement. Accountability structures prevent regression into mental chaos and support sustained clarity and performance. Integrate creative outlets to maintain cognitive flexibility. Engaging in activities like drawing, writing, or music allows the brain to process information differently and reduce rigid thought patterns. Creative practices expand mental capacity, improve problem solving, and release cognitive tension accumulated from overloaded thinking. Recognize that rebuilding mental space is an ongoing practice. Life continuum introduces new responsibilities, stresses, and information. Regular maintenance of cognitive clarity prevents overload from recurring. Continuous attention to mental health is an active commitment, not a one-time task. Celebrate small victories in mental organization. Each completed task, resolved emotional tension, or successful pause reinforces the effectiveness of rebuilding effort. Acknowledging progress strengthens motivation and provides tangible evidence of improvement. Positive reinforcement encourages consistent application of mental rebuilding strategies. Rebuilding mental space enhances emotional resilience. A clearer mind handles setbacks with composure, responds thoughtfully rather than reactively, and sustains focus on meaningful priorities. Emotional stability is directly linked to the ability to maintain mental clarity and cognitive bandwidth. Implement mindfulness in decision-making. Before committing to new projects or responsibilities, pause to assess mental capacity and readiness. Avoid impulsive decisions that overload the mind further. Evaluating cognitive bandwidth ensures sustainable progress and prevents burnout. Ultimately, rebuilding your mental space transforms your approach to life and goals. You shift from reactive, scattered energy to deliberate, focused action. The mind becomes an organized, responsive instrument rather than a cluttered source of stress. By attending to cognitive clarity before pursuing additional goals, each action becomes more effective, strategic, and rewarding. Through consistent practice of these strategies, acknowledging overload, prioritizing tasks, processing emotions, resting, organizing, setting boundaries, reflecting, and pacing, mental space is restored. This creates a foundation for productive, meaningful, and sustainable achievement. You are no longer chasing goals from a place of exhaustion. You pursue them with clarity, energy, and confidence. The result is transformative. Rebuilt mental space allows sharper thinking, greater focus, improved emotional balance, and sustained energy. The mind becomes a reliable ally rather than a limiting factor. By honoring this process, every goal pursued is approached strategically and successfully, replacing mental overload with deliberate progress, clarity, and control.
Chapter 10. Create a pace of life that your mind can handle every day. Finding a sustainable pace for life is not about doing less out of laziness. It is about understanding the limits of your mental and physical energy. The modern world often glorifies busyness and constant achievement, making it easy to push beyond what your mind can reasonably handle. Overloading yourself leads to stress, burnout, and decreased effectiveness. To create a life pace that your mind can handle every day, you must first honestly assess how much mental capacity you have and what your energy patterns look like throughout the day. Recognize when your focus wanes, when fatigue sets in, and when tasks begin to feel overwhelming. This self-awareness is the foundation for designing a rhythm that supports productivity and well-being. Start by structuring your day around natural peaks in attention and energy. Identify times when your mind is sharpest and reserve these periods for the most demanding tasks. Place less intensive work or routine activities during lower energy periods. By aligning tasks with cognitive capacity, you maintain efficiency without overtaxing mental resources. This approach reduces the constant struggle against your own limits and allows consistent performance. Prioritization is essential. Not every task is equally important, and attempting to do everything creates mental chaos. Make a list of daily responsibilities and identify those that truly impact your goals. Eliminate, delegate, or postpone non-essential tasks. Each unnecessary commitment removed creates space for focus and prevents your mind from being pulled in too many directions. The ability to say no strategically is a skill that directly influences how sustainable your daily pace can be. Incorporate planned breaks throughout your day. Mental recovery is not optional, it is a necessary part of maintaining clarity and focus. Short breaks, physical movement, or mindful pauses provide the mind with a reset. These intervals allow stress to dissipate and prevent cognitive fatigue from accumulating. Avoid using breaks as an opportunity to engage in additional stimulation, such as social media or multitasking, as this undermines the restorative purpose. The goal is to replenish mental energy and return to tasks with renewed focus. Sleep hygiene is a critical factor in maintaining a manageable daily pace. Adequate sleep enhances memory, attention, and emotional regulation. Skipping or shortening rest disrupts these functions and reduces your ability to sustain effort across the day. Commit to consistent sleep schedules, create a restful environment, and protect sleep as a non-negotiable component of your routine. Well-rested minds handle challenges with clarity and resilience. Nutrition and hydration also directly influence mental performance. Skipping meals, relying on sugar highs, or neglecting hydration adds unnecessary stress to the brain and body. Balanced meals and sufficient water intake support energy, focus, and mood stability. Treating your body as an integral partner in your mental capacity ensures that daily pacing is effective and sustainable. Set clear boundaries around work and personal time. Mental overload often arises when responsibilities bleed into every moment of the day. Define when work ends, when rest begins, and when personal activities take priority. Protecting these boundaries prevents the mind from being constantly active, reduces stress, and preserves energy for meaningful engagement in all areas of life. Simplify routines and reduce decision fatigue. Each decision consumes mental energy, and an overloaded mind struggles with repeated choices. Establish habits that minimize unnecessary decisions, automate repetitive actions, and create predictable patterns. This allows your mental resources to be directed toward high-impact tasks rather than wasted on trivial matters.
Simplification supports a consistent, sustainable pace. Physical activity supports cognitive performance and mental resilience. Regular exercise improves focus, mood and energy levels. Movement breaks during the day prevent stagnation and mental fatigue. Activities like walking, stretching, or even short bouts of exercise stimulate blood flow and enhance alertness. Integrating movement into your day ensures that your mind can sustain effort without being hindered by physical lethargy or restlessness. Mindfulness and reflection strengthen the ability to maintain a sustainable pace. Pause to assess how your day is progressing and how your mind is feeling. Recognize signs of stress, fatigue, or cognitive overload before they escalate. Reflection allows adjustments to your schedule and priorities in real time, keeping your mental energy aligned with daily demands. Awareness is the mechanism that prevents drifting into an unsustainable pace. Chunk tasks into manageable segments. Attempting to complete large projects in one stretch overwhelms the mind and reduces efficiency. Break tasks into smaller, achievable steps, focusing on one component at a time. Each completed segment reinforces progress and maintains momentum without exhausting mental resources. Structured pacing ensures that goals are reached steadily and without cognitive overload. Learn to delegate and collaborate effectively. Taking on everything yourself creates unnecessary mental strain. Identify responsibilities that can be shared or entrusted to others. Delegation frees mental bandwidth for higher priority work and fosters cooperation. Sharing the load prevents burnout and ensures that your daily pace is realistic and achievable. Avoid multitasking as a strategy for efficiency. Shifting attention between tasks reduces focus and increases cognitive load. Concentrate on one task at a time, complete it fully, and then move to the next. This approach enhances quality, reduces errors, and preserves mental energy. Focused work is more effective and less mentally draining than scattered attention. Integrate creative and restorative practices into your daily rhythm. Activities like journaling, reading, or engaging in hobbies provide mental recovery and stimulate different areas of thinking. These practices support emotional health, reduce stress, and maintain cognitive flexibility. Daily pacing is sustainable when the mind has opportunities to recharge and explore beyond routine tasks. Set realistic expectations for daily achievement. Overestimating what you can accomplish creates unnecessary pressure and mental fatigue. Align goals with available energy and resources, allowing space for adaptation and unexpected challenges. Realistic pacing prevents discouragement and fosters consistent, meaningful progress. Manage digital input intentionally. Notifications, emails, and social media demands fragment attention and create cognitive noise. Allocate specific times for digital engagement and avoid constant monitoring. Controlling digital intake preserves mental energy and supports focus on high-priority tasks. Digital discipline is essential for a pace that the mind can sustain. Practice emotional self-regulation. Stress and frustration can accelerate mental exhaustion and disrupt pacing. Recognize emotional triggers, respond intentionally, and employ calming strategies when tension rises. A stable emotional state maintains energy levels and prevents the mind from being derailed by temporary disturbances. Emotional balance is a cornerstone of sustainable daily pacing. Plan for recovery days. Not every day will maintain peak productivity. Allowing time for rest, reflection, and lighter responsibilities ensures that mental reserves are replenished. Regular recovery prevents cumulative stress, maintains focus over the long term, and enhances resilience to daily challenges. Reflect on accomplishments each day to reinforce progress. Reviewing completed tasks and acknowledging effort strengthens motivation and provides perspective. Reflection ensures that the pace you are maintaining aligns with meaningful outcomes and prevents drifting into unproductive patterns. This awareness supports continuous improvement in daily pacing. Gradually adjust routines based on observed energy patterns. Flexibility is essential to accommodate changing responsibilities, stresses, or health conditions. Monitor how different strategies impact focus and fatigue, and adapt pacing accordingly. Incremental adjustments prevent overloading and optimize the daily rhythm for efficiency and mental well-being. Ultimately, creating a life pace your mind can handle transforms productivity and personal satisfaction. It allows consistent progress without exhaustion, supports mental clarity, and reduces stress. By consciously designing your daily rhythm around energy levels, priorities, rest, and reflection, you build a sustainable approach to life that fosters growth, resilience, and enduring success. A mindful, intentional daily pace ensures that every action taken is effective and aligned with goals. Mental energy is preserved, focus is sharpened, and the mind operates as a reliable partner rather than a source of strain. Through self-awareness, structured routines, deliberate breaks, and realistic goal setting, your life becomes balanced, purposeful, and productive. Sustainable pacing empowers you to achieve more consistently, think clearly, and maintain emotional stability while navigating daily demands with confidence and control.